All right. Our season preview show. We're finally here. We're finally here to real football. We don't have to talk about OTAs or mock drafts. We survived the off season. My goodness. Before we get there, I just wanted to bring up Jimmy Buffett, an absolute legend. Uh, you might think if you're not a fan, you think, oh, Margaritaville, cool. He and that's what I thought at first. And my family was gung-ho to see him to go to one of those concerts. I'm like, sure, whatever, I'll go. It was an experience. It's
Yes.
basically one giant party with 30,000 people, and
Yeah.
people that were like, bank executives during the day are wearing grass skirts and giving you jello shots and stuff like that. It was such a crazy scene. Darren, I know you're a big fan. I know this really affected you.
31 shows.
Wow.
And the surfboard behind me, which I don't know how well you can see, that's signed by him at all the 31 shows. I only ever met him for maybe 3 minutes when he signed that. And he signed that because the Beach Boys were going to a concert at Blossom Music Center in Cleveland, and they got lost. And the limo driver called the head of the limo company because he didn't know where he was. And the guy from the limo company happened to be on a treadmill next to me. And I guided the limo driver there. He said, "I owe you big, whatever you want." And I said, "Well,
Oh.
it's coming up." So,
Wow.
but
Oh.
31 shows. It's tough because for a person I've only met 4 minutes, it feels like I lost my uncle. And my sister-in-law tweeted me or texted me, and she said, it's okay to be sad and cry because I did, and I still have a little bit over the last few days. He was a big part of my life. He is part of who I am. I think some people say, "Oh, you can't get connected to a singer or an actor or something like that." I think you can.
Oh, yeah.
And I went back and I read most of his books, and there's a quick passage, Joe. He wrote, "Everything leaves eventually in a physical form, but the memories of good people and good work are timeless." This was in reference to George Harrison's passing in 2001. So instead of saying a prayer, I just visualized George boarding a Pan Am Clipper, guitar case in hand, greeted by Captain Gardner McKay and entertaining director Freddie Neal by Jimmy Buffett. And I thought that spoke really well to him. I mean, this guy is, a troubadour. He's the captain of escapism for so many of us in so many
Yes.
forms. And I like to picture that too. I like to picture something happy because he always made me happy. You know,
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, I saw Franco Harris in a coconut bra once. So if you want a football tie-in, um, and that day I had him signed, Franco would pop up anywhere.
Yeah.
And God rest
Right.
his soul. You never knew where Franco would turn up. I ran into him at the Turnpike once in Ohio. But yeah, there he was. I got that thing signed by Jimmy Buffett. I turn around, there's Franco in a coconut bra. I'm like, "Hi, Franco. Hey, man, what's going on, Darren?" Because we had done some Penn
That's
State stuff
amazing.
together. Amazing. But yeah, I'll
Um,
miss him,
So
Joe. I'll
cool.
miss him a lot.
yeah, he was basically he had that pirate lifestyle of
Yeah.
he would just go out on a boat and so but he was so he has those margarita franchises like all over the world. And
Yeah.
what was it?
I saw that somebody said, and I thought this was like the perfect way to explain who he was to maybe somebody who wouldn't know who he was. They said, remember that feeling you get when you're a kid and you're on the last day of school and summer is right there, like within reach. They said Jimmy Buffett gave that to adults
Yeah,
365 days a year. And I thought that was like a really cool way to
yeah.
explain it.
And he was a
Right.
huge New Orleans Saints fan.
Yes.
Um, and he would yeah, he was what do you think of when about the New Orleans Saints? There was that Bounty Gate thing where Sean Payton got suspended for a year, and he
Mhm.
wore he did a concert down there. He wore a free Sean Payton
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that huge thing with the in the playoffs with the blown call.
Yeah.
And so he got really mad about that. But yeah, he was a big New Orleans Saints fan. So
But,
Yeah.
we do connect to these people, like Darren said, people say that you can't feel this way about people. And I would always push back on that, because you need to even look at like how people felt when like Princess Diana died, or like I remember hearing my mom talk about like Kennedy getting shot. Do you know what I mean? And you think about like musicians, and Franco Harris's death. And, these things do have an impact. I mean, these people are so public for us, they let us into their lives, and, we feel like you get to know them on a personal level, and they matter to you, and so I totally get it, Darren.
Celebrities get people through, especially musicians, get people through a lot of hard times. And I think when people are going through those things and they're listening to that person's music, there's total connection.
Yeah, you connect like completely with them. Yeah.
I have all kinds of music tastes. I like Metallica, I like Taylor Swift or whatever. But there are times when I'll just listen to Jimmy Buffett songs all day, and you just get you just feel good. There's just feel good songs. It's just relaxed, laid back, and it's rest in peace. Now on to the Steelers. Oh boy. Well, let me bring up something. This is when the schedule first came out, we all made predictions.
Oh, right.
Yes.
And
January. No, what was that?
It was I think it was May or something.
May?
Was it?
Yeah, wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. So funny thing is, almost all of us predicted a loss this week for the San Francisco,
except for LeeAnn, of course.
I can't see me. I don't know why I can't see me.
Okay, well, don't worry. We'll get to you again.
You're all wins. Let's just put it this way: you're all wins except for like 3.
Yeah, what did I lose? The 24th.
Me and Allison predicted 10-7. Darren said 11-6, and LeeAnn said 12-5.
Right.
Hey. I want to change mine. I want to say officially I'm thinking 11-6 now. Does anybody else want to change theirs?
I'm sticking with my win.
There you go.
I'm sticking with my win. Yeah.
No, 11-6 is where I have them, Joe, because for 2 reasons. One, I think that's where there will be, and I think that's where they need to be. It's 9-8. Yeah, 9-8 might be nice, but to me, we all want to see that progress, and 11-6 I think shows that. If they make the playoffs and lose in the first round, I'd like to see a playoff win, but I mean, they're also, the AFC North is brutal. I mean, it just is. I have
the AFC is brutal. The entire conference.
Yeah, the entire AFC.
It is. I think you have the AFC is just absolutely loaded with a few Super Bowl contenders, and then you have the NFC. It's kind of cute, and they have some pretenders, and who's going to be the best pretender. But
they love that.
Yeah, the AFC is where it's at, and I have them splitting with Baltimore. I have them splitting with Cincy. I have them sweeping the Browns, and I think that's fair. Even the Browns, you never know, but I think that's where you see it. It's not anymore where the Steelers pretty much are probably gonna win most of those games and lose just one to one of those teams.
Where
they used to sweep Cincinnati, sweep Cleveland, split with Baltimore.
I'm afraid 10-7 might not make the playoffs.
I don't think it will.
Wow,
it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough.
I mean, you have the AFC
Steelers
South.
Will find a way to sneak in.
Right. Yeah, somebody will go 6-11 and win the NFC South. So that's going to screw that.
Yeah, if they get in via wild card, I'd be concerned only because they haven't had that win. They haven't won a playoff game in I don't know how long. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to win those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great point. And we
need to get back to the business of that.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point that you bring up too, Allison, because they could be facing Baltimore at Baltimore in a playoff game if they go at the wild card.
That's a great point.
Very easily.
What happened? So if they make the playoffs but then lose again in the first round, is this season a disappointment? I say yeah.
Yeah.
I say no. I don't think it's a disappointment. I mean, I think it's frustrating. Do you know what I mean? But I still think it's progress over where we were last year. I think it would be the first year that we're kind of firing on all cylinders with, Pickett coming in as the starting quarterback. I mean, this is not his rookie season, but I mean, it's not like a full second season when he wasn't the starting quarterback last year. We had Matt Canada spoon feeding him baby bites of the offense. Do you know what I mean? We had TJ Watt out. I mean, we just weren't 100% for the majority of last season. So I think if we could capitalize and do better than we did last year and make it to the playoffs, I think that's a success. I know it won't make people happy.
I would say this. I agree with you because of one factor. We have the youngest offense in the AFC.
Yes.
If this was a tested and veteran offense, then yeah, I'm with you. But I'll go with 11-6 making the playoffs and losing the first round. I didn't think at the beginning of the year I would be happy with that. But, Joe knows I was at 5 training camps this year. I got to spend a lot of time watching the team. And, man, it's been fun watching them develop. And I tell Joe, and I know there's not a lot of science, factual basis to this, there's something there. I
keep saying that. Yeah.
There's something there. And I don't think it's going to happen this year. Sorry, Steeler fans. But it's going to happen, I think, provided they can keep doing what they're doing. I think Omar Khan did the best job a GM's done in all of the league in the offseason. There's something there. That's why I would say I'm with you. They lose, I'm okay with it. About 10 weeks ago, I wasn't.
This team
Right.
feels so much better than last year. It's like night and day. I don't know. Maybe we're just drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe we're just in the Steelers bubble. But I mean, you look, DraftKings still has the Steelers at 8.5 wins. I think that's easy money. There's a lot of things that are easy money here. They have Najee Harris, 900 yards and 7.5 touchdowns. He might get that through November.
Yeah.
I could minimum 1,000 yards that dude's getting.
Mm-hmm.
Deontay Johnson, they have 825 yards and 82.5 receptions. That's very low for him also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems weak.
Now Pickett, they have 3,300 passing yards, 18.5 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. I think that's actually probably where he's going to be at. Do you think he'll go higher or lower than those numbers?
Pickett?
Yeah. 3,300 yards.
Higher. I mean, it's sad to say this, but in the day of age that we are with the internet and everything like that, there's still not enough people here seeing what we're seeing. And I think I think he's better than that. Last year he struggled, but last year he didn't practice with the first team all preseason. You throw him halfway through the Jets game and say, "Hey, here you go, have fun."
Right?
That's bringing it down to layman terms, but that's what happened to the kid. So I think it's going to be up. I mean, everyone's pissing on the kid, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were a lot of factors that played into why he didn't show to his potential.
Right.
Canada, and again, it's not just Canada's play calling. You have to admit, yes, he's the offensive coordinator's, not going to throw like a Ben Roethlisberger kind of playbook at him. They're gonna want to limit him because he's so fresh, he's so raw. You know what I mean? They don't want him going out there and, like, in the beginning of the season, he threw so many interceptions, but then they reeled it back and they're like, okay, we want you to just take care of the ball, which was disappointing, but at the same time, it kept his interceptions down and probably helped win him some games. So we would hope that offense isn't going to be as limited this year as it was last year.
Right.
What if the 49ers are one of the best defenses in the league, or at least they were last year? What if in game 1 the Steelers play pretty poorly offensively? Not because of, not just because San Francisco is so good. They just got Nick Bosa. Great.
Mm-hmm.
He can now get extra cheese on his Whopper. That's wonderful. But what if they struggle against San Francisco and the coaches or whoever says, "Oh, we're gonna make it conservative again," and then this whole season gets Matt Canada?
Say that, Joe. Yeah,
I think if that happens, I think Canada's gone. I think he's not the answer. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've seen the progress that Kenny Pickett made, and I get that we only see like a tiny little, Jimmy-sized dot of what the reality is in preseason. But even with that little bit we saw, it looked like this tremendous leap forward. This continuation of where we were last year with no recession and moving forward and getting better during the preseason. So if he comes in week 1 and we see this massive step backwards because of play calling, then how can they justify keeping Canada?
Yeah.
I think that's why he had 1 year
Before
left
game
on that
2.
contract. I think that's why they kept him. Joe and I held up a sign a couple of podcasts ago. There's no more excuses. There's no more
Right.
for Matt Canada. You have a healthy Austin, you have a healthy Pickett, you have a probably. I'm still not sold on the offensive line. Let's see how it goes, but it's the best offensive line they've had since he's been there. You have Allen Robinson in the slot. I mean, a lot of the reasons last year they struggled was the slot position was really unreliable. I mean, a couple times you were having Gentry line up in the slot, which, I mean, good Lord. So, there's a lot there, and I agree, no more excuses. And if they were to struggle in the way Joe's suggesting, I don't think they'll make a change into week 2. But, I think it's important to get off to a good start. I think if they want to go to the 11 and 6, I think if this game's competitive, and I still think the 49ers will win, but I think it's going to be closer to what people think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They were only 5-4 on the road last year. Yeah. They were 5-4 on the road. They weren't dominating on the road.
And
I think the team is as fired up as we are. They look that way. They appear that way. Like, they're always going to pay the lip service, let's go, we're ready. But to me, it even has like a different vibe this season than I can recall in any recent season.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, you said you went to training camp and you saw something special. I guarantee the coaches are saying the same thing. We got something here. And I think the players are saying that too. And I think there is something special here. I have this vision. I have 2 visions, and they're scaring the hell out of me. One is that they start 10-1. And then they fade in the end. They end up 11-6, but they start 10-1. So then they end up 1-5, which would be terrible. And I also have this thing that somebody gets hurt, either Kenny Pickett or TJ Watt. I hate even saying it, but Allison wants to beat
your tongue. Bite your tongue.
Get him, Allison.
But I just have this feeling that they're going to start so well, and it is just going to. Like if that happened, if they started 10-1, we wouldn't really be surprised. We'd probably say, yeah, probably. But other people would like lose their minds because other people outside of Pittsburgh still are disrespecting them, and they're like, how can this be possible? They're probably, you got a lot of fluke wins or whatever. But I could see it happening. It's not that strong of a schedule coming out.
No, you're right. It's not.
It's not.
I think they're like the 13th or 14th hardest schedule in the league. It's not hard. And the Bengals and the Browns are in the same boat. I mean, the AFC North doesn't have a strong matchup. So, I haven't
our
going out.
Our toughest games are against our division opponents. I mean, those are really our toughest games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But you know what? In those games, I make fun of the AFC South, which everybody should. Sorry, AFC South.
Right.
Kendrick Green.
The Jaguars always play us tough. I mean, forever. Go back to the Fred Taylor days.
The Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders. And the Titans play us tough too. So we have 3 opponents in there. I feel like they're going to lose one of those games. I'm not sure which one. It's a game they probably shouldn't lose, but I think they're going to lose to one of those teams. Maybe 2 out of the 3. I don't know. But yeah, it's. I have that feeling. But the thing about that is they still have to come together. There's got to be a culmination point where everything's clicking, and it's probably not going to click in week 1. I think it may click, down the road, and they'll do a little bit opposite of what you're saying, Joe. They may start out okay. I am going at least 3-1 in the first 4 games, bumpiness, and then they may blow the first games against the Ravens and the Bengals, but I think they'll learn from that. And I really do feel like they're going to come out on a strong season because of that youth. I mean, they list, they're listing the age of those players. At least they did up here when KDK was carrying the games, and Batch and Pomp are reading them off. It's like 22, 21, 22, 24, 23. And you're like, whew. I mean, this reminds me of 04, 03.
I think Allen Robinson is probably the oldest player on the offense.
Probably.
Yeah, I think he is now.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. We think Kenny Pickett is going to make a huge jump. I think everybody thinks George Pickens is going to make a huge jump too.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Pickens has the makings of a great receiver.
Yeah.
He's got
really
great hands. He's got Lynn Swan like kind of moves. He's got the makings there. I think the running back situation's good. Najee Harris, they have a decent second running back here. They are pretty well. You can rest Najee Harris now. He doesn't
Really?
have
I
to
hadn't heard about him. Tell me
Yeah.
more.
What's his name?
I hear he's going to be the starter by week 2.
Yeah, but if you talk to people outside of Pittsburgh, they basically say that Najee Harris like doesn't know how to walk or try. He's basically a
People are
toddler.
so stupid. Like, how are they allowed to like procreate and drive cars? They are so dumb.
Yeah, all
Right.
these fantasy experts I hear, it's like
Right.
Jalen Warren is better than Najee Harris. He'll have more carries.
I
Bro,
do get how Warren impacts Harris's numbers. So, like, from a fantasy standpoint, like that might be concerning. But that isn't because Harris can't play. Like, in Pittsburgh, we should be grateful that we have this like 1-2 knockout punch duo. I think it's excellent to have 2 different kinds of running backs on our team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how did that go with Willie Parker and Jerome Bettis? Oh yeah, we won a Super Bowl.
really well.
Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
So yeah, I think I think Warren might get 5 touchdowns this year. Maybe a couple through the air, maybe on the ground. But that's what you like out of a backup. But yeah, Najee Harris is still good, and I think he ran behind some horrible offensive lines. And the Steelers did nothing at all to address that or remedy it or anything. And you had him getting killed back there. It's 3rd and 13 and you're throwing a fly route to guys that can't block for you.
Exactly.
And, now they have that. And it's just, again, there's going to be some, miscommunications. There's going to be a few of that in these first couple weeks. But when this team starts gelling, it's going to be, they're going to upset some people, I think, too.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see in general. I mean, in general, the offense, how much better it is with an upgraded offensive line, but for sure the run game. You know what I mean? For sure the run game, because it's like Naj has had a rough. I mean, sure he's had over 1,000 yards both seasons, but it's like that's not really awesome anymore. You know
it was a tough 1,000 yards.
It was.
Yeah.
We talk about how wonderful the offense, how much better the offensive line has gotten, but really there was only one change from last year, and that's Isaac Seumalo. Now that might be a big change,
right?
Yeah,
but still, everyone else is the same. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying,
although we are apparently getting like a new and improved Dan Moore. So, I mean, even though he's not a new person, if he's coming out as a much more improved player, that's an upgrade. You know what I mean? And considering he already knows the system, that's a step ahead of then replacing him with somebody else. Remains to be seen how improved he is. But
I'm not sure what happened to Dan Moore. But, earlier before we started the recording here, we had some good Cam Hayward stories we're sharing. Well, for the last couple of years, Cam Hayward's usually the first guy on, last guy off type of thing.
Yeah.
You know who joined him this year? His brother and Dan
Moore.
And I don't know, whatever it was. And all of a sudden,
Jones is what happened to Dan Moore.
Exactly.
Exactly. Just a threat. Not that it seems like from what I'm hearing that Jones is nowhere near what he needs to be to start. And obviously that's why he's not. But just the threat alone, you know what I mean? I think Dan Moore really.
They know that Broderick Jones is going to play and start at some point this season.
Yes.
He's not going to sit the whole season. So you better believe that put a fire under Dan Moore. It's like, he's coming for my job.
Dan Moore has it twofold. Not only does he want to start and play in Pittsburgh, he needs to look good so that when Jones is ready to play, somebody else wants him. Do you know what I mean? He's not done. So he's also auditioning for his
maybe Dan Moore can go to the other side and replace Chooks.
Yeah, I think that would save some money too.
Yeah, Dan Moore didn't play all that bad last year, and coming off that one to go and get Broderick, and I think that was a big part of that fire. But I mean, he's just looked fantastic, and I mean, hey, we benefit from it for at least this year. So and when you look at that game, the offensive line's kind of a push for me, right? It's gonna be interesting to see how our O-line works. 49ers O-line's nothing to get too excited about. You remember they lost their big guy. McGinley to the Broncos in free agency. Now they kept Trent Williams, who will probably go to the Hall of Fame someday. But on the right tackle, they have Colton McKivitz, who last year was on their practice squad, and just kind of worked his way as a backup, and then started that last NFC game, and he did good. Okay, last year his numbers were not great. He had a 64.8% passer rating for pass blocking. The average in the league was 88.7. Guess who he lines up against on Sunday? TJ Watt.
Right, yeah.
So that kid's got
Colton.
That kid's got a lot cut out for him in the form of TJ Watt, and they'll probably switch, and Highsmith will take on Trent Williams, and they might switch back and forth. But the 49ers line isn't exactly stellar. The defensive line is, the offensive line not so much. So I think you're going to see the Steelers defense get in there and create some havoc on Sunday.
Yeah.
TJ Watt is
going to. I know what his welcome to the NFL moment is going to be.
TJ Watt just saw another dude make more money than him. The dude on the other team. Like, oh yeah. I think I'm pretty good too, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Well, and the contract that Nick Bosa got today was driven partly by what Donald and TJ Watt.
Donald and Watt, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We could Nick Bosa doesn't have to worry about saving up for Christmas. I think he got those that
good shape.
taken care of.
Good.
The rookie that is going to who will end up being the rookie of the year
for the Steelers?
Yes.
Oh,
it could be Herbig.
Could be Herbig.
Broderick Jones, Darnell Washington, Keanu Benton, Nick Herbig, Joey Porter Jr.
You know,
I think
Herbig.
I think it's Porter.
Oh, it could be.
It could be Porter or Herbig. I mean, they are just Herbig's so good right now that it's hard.
I think it's hard. Yeah, hard to pass up Herbig right now. But of course, you got a whole season ahead of you to see what they really get to do. Do you know what I mean? Who knows how much playing time Herbig will really get compared to Porter?
Right. Yeah. And plus, again, I mean, we beat this like a dead friggin' horse, but it's like preseason. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't. It was everybody. Right. Everybody was playing against. Even though they were starters, were they all going like with
right
120 million%? No. You know what I mean? So it's like I definitely am. I'm excited to see what he can do when he does come in for Water Highsmith. And the great thing about him is he can play both sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he can go in for either one of them. You know, he doesn't just have to spell Watt or spell Highsmith.
Right.
It's the talent from the Herbigs in general is pretty enticing.
Yeah.
You know who I haven't heard one thing about all year? Levi Wallace. It's like, is he even on the team? Like, yeah, he's a starting quarterback, and nobody said a thing about him.
He's been so eclipsed by Porter. It's, you know what I mean? They just don't even talk about him. Totally eclipsed.
And they know
we have Levi Wallace.
Yep. Yeah, it's a Dan Moore
thing.
Like...
A total eclipse of the Wallace. You like that? You see
so many hard references
good.
Tonight.
It's good.
It's good.
What was that, Darren?
I said, how many heart references will we have tonight?
Right, yeah.
No, I mean, and that's the stuff too. I mean, if I think players let you believe, man, I don't care what you say in the media or what people say. They do. They see that stuff. That kind of stuff makes it into the lockers, and it does matter. It's not like we try to drive an opinion one way or another.
Right.
But that what you said, Joe, and what you said, Allison, before about Broderick Jones, I think that's going to drive Wallace. Mm-hmm. It really is. I think I remember Troy Polamalu not being real happy about being on special teams. His rookie year, he had some playing defensive back, and they stuck him on special teams, and he started lighting people up.
Yeah,
in those first couple of weeks, and then Koehler was like, maybe we need to get this kid more in the backfield, and and he said that he somebody somewhere something wrote something about he might be just a special teams guru, and that lit a fire.
But in Pittsburgh, that's a great way to make it on to start either on the defense is to go through special teams. I mean, you mentioned Polamalu, but Harris also and Brett Kiesel. They were also special teamers that made their way. Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. It's super common. So some of the biggest names in Steelers defense history got their start that way on special teams. So they can find himself in that position.
Pittsburgh loves an underdog story, man. If you're that guy that plays in special teams, and then they love it. They love
Either the players find out what gets said about them, or the people near the players, their friends and family, tell them what people are saying about them. But they know all the stuff. Mm-hmm. Did you see Troy Polamalu is he was helping the 49ers, basically the 49ers Polamalu. Hey, it's a family show. Hey,
no, I mean, they're both like Samoan descent. They both play for USA. Yeah, Polynesian. Thank you. Yeah, Samoan would be a little bit bigger. They're both from USC. Yeah, he's been even before he was drafted, I think Troy was
he
helping him
kept
out.
asking Polamalu for advice. And the
Mhm.
one thing Polamalu told him is turn off your social media, kill your accounts for while you're in college. That's great advice. Tune all that out.
We had Samoa on our show, and he talked about how that group, the Samoans and Polynesian group in the NFL are super tight, and they all talk to each other and support each other, and their families support each other, and just that's a really tight-knit community.
It's like that
Doesn't matter what team you're on.
It's like that in professional wrestling too. There are so many. Roman Reigns is from that family. The Rock. So many players, so many wrestlers throughout history. Most of them are in the same family, but still, they're all that Samoan descent, and they're extremly close with each other. So yeah, there's something about that. You know, that those people are very, very tight knit. So
yeah.
Oh boy, I'm so excited. I'm so.
What do we have for scores for Sunday's game? I have the 49ers 23-21. How about you guys?
17-14. I'm sorry, but I just feel like defensively they're gonna, you know what I'm saying?
17-14 49ers?
Steelers.
Oh, Steelers?
Actually,
okay.
I'm changing that I think they're gonna win.
LeeAnn, what do you think?
Yeah. I was a little bit higher than Allison. I was more like 24, 23, 21, something like that. Steelers winning.
I'm going 51-0 Steelers. I think
that's a typical LeeAnn score. I can't believe it.
No, I want to say 23-17 Steelers. It's going to be low scoring because these are both supposed to be really good defenses. Keep in mind, though, that the 49ers have a totally new defensive coordinator. I don't know if that's going to mess anything up.
Yeah.
Right.
Offensive coordinator
and offensive coordinator. And Nick Bosa just signed today.
Yeah.
He is not going to be in football shape. I don't care what he's been doing. I don't care if he's been hanging out of living at Planet Fitness or something like that. He is not going to be in football shape. They're going to have him on a pitch count.
Nothing takes the place of preseason. Nothing takes the place of that. He cannot replicate that.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, I agree. He'll be a little rusty, but I mean, he's still Nick Bosa, so
but there's injury concerns there. When you don't have that conditioning.
We talked about this earlier.
There's a risk.
How
of
much
injury.
do you want to risk him?
Yeah, especially since you paid him a buttload of money.
Yeah, really.
Right. And it's not a conference game. Do you know what I mean? Which is not to say it doesn't count, but it's like a slightly different level. And it's week 1, which is always a wonky week anyway. So how much do you want to risk, Bosa?
And
if you knew TJ Watt was going to get hurt last year against the Bengals, even though that was a conference game, would you have chosen to win that game or keep TJ Watt? Not that you can predict things, but.
No, great points. I mean, absolutely. And the 49ers and the Steelers have an interesting week 1 matchup history. They've met in week 1 a bunch of times. I remember the 93 when I was at that game. My dad took me that game. I was a younger kid, and we almost beat them. We were struggling. We came back, and
that was a super team. That was probably Steve Young.
It was Jerry Rice. I mean, that's what we're kind of talking about. This 49er team comes pretty loaded for bear. Brock Purdy. I mean, you can say what you want, but 32 points they average. Him and McCaffrey hooked up, and when you start hooking up with Christian McCaffrey. He's tough. They got great receivers. Brandon Ayuk's probably going to be fantastic. I think Deebo Samuel has a bounce back this year, and they have a great tight end. They are a force to be reckoned with. I mean, this Steeler defense that we're talking about how good it's going to be. This is a hell of a test in week 1, a big time test.
There's a hell of a test of my theory that Brock Purdy is a fraud.
I was just going to ask you that because I remembered you saying that before.
I'm telling you.
Irrelevant being irrelevant.
The dude is Duck Hodges. Okay. Duck Hodges was a nice story, but you don't want him as your franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
He's just a smart dude.
I think we're going to find out pretty quickly if he really is, what he appears to be, or is it a little bit of an optical illusion?
Yeah, I mean, to Joe's point, what if the Steelers do go in and just blow them out, and they have 6 sacks against the kid, and he turns the ball over, and all of a sudden it's a little bit chaotic in 49er camp.
You know who actually might be good is Sam Darnold. I could see Sam Darnold in that situation being serviceable, being managing the game. He's not. Steve Darnold isn't the worst quarterback to ever live. He's no Trey Lance. He's no Zach Wilson. He could, in certain situations, he could excel. And that offense is a dang all-star team. I mean, McCaffrey and all those, like they're just loaded.
And
on
it's going to come with like rapid fire speed. I mean, that's what Shanahan does. Do you know what I mean? That's how he runs his offense. It's going to do that to try to minimize the impact of players like Watt and Highsmith. And, we'll just have to see like if our defense can kind of keep up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think, honestly, I got to say it's probably the best game in week one. I mean, they're giving us, obviously the Chiefs are going to get that Thursday night matchup as the reigning Super Bowl champs. Apparently everybody thinks the Lions are Super Bowl contenders. I don't see it. I think they're kind of in the same shoes as Pittsburgh, honestly. I think they're a young team on the rise.
I think their shoes are tighter and cheaper made. They're from like Payless. Ours at least came from like Nordstrom's.
Right, or Dick's, yeah.
I think it's a national game. It's a 1 o'clock. Like yeah. That's nice. That's tough.
And they released that today. It'll be the feature game. So they have a United States map, and the Steelers and 49ers are like the majority of what everyone's going to see.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What's everybody's Super Bowl matchup?
Oof.
I sort of feel like the Eagles are going to go back. You know what? How cool, like, I don't think the Steelers are going to go to the Super Bowl, but how cool would it be if it was like Steelers
and all Pennsylvania Eagles. Super Bowl would be amazing.
That would be bad.
Amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a repeat of last season with Kansas City and the Eagles. I just think they're both so good. That would not surprise me.
I think it's going to be Bills Eagles.
That's what Peter
I think the Bills have a good shot.
I don't know, man. It seems like Josh Allen's had a rough go of things lately, and it's like,
I know it was the preseason, but I felt like we really dismantled them compared to like how badly they pounded us into the sand. Do you know what I mean? In 2022. So I know it was preseason, but they just didn't look like themselves. I don't know if they just felt like we'd be an easy win or it didn't matter, or I don't know, but
well, and Josh Allen, I mean, you could hear him at Heinz Field that night. He was getting pissed. I mean,
he really was.
He did not like all the penalties. He was not happy.
Yeah. They looked terrible, like undisciplined and sloppy.
Right. And again, it's preseason. We get that, folks. But I think you make a great point on that. But at some point, I feel like this team is too talented not to get there. So I'm kind of with you, Joe. I like the Bills. My heart says Chiefs because I think they're in a mini dynasty run right now. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. I mean, the Chris Jones thing, I mean, that's a big component they're missing right now.
Kelsey, that's huge too.
That's all very big. I mean, Sky Moore might step up in the receiving core a little bit, but and then for my NFC pick, because I think it's really up in the air, it could be Philly. Dallas might be able to sneak in there if you believe in Dak.
Hey, why not?
The defense is good enough to get him there. But I think the Vikings might be there. I mean, the Vikings had a great season last year. I mean, I think the best game of the year was that Bills-Vikings game without question. I mean, they were 13. I mean, they had a very good football team that's also very young and is kind of flying under the radar now. I mean, Packers are going to have a losing season. The Bears stink. Detroit is wild card material. I think the Vikings could end up winning that conference, and I think they could make a run.
Interesting. I heard that Jacksonville's like a dark horse candidate to be like the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's possible.
They could win the AFC South quite easily. I think Trevor Lawrence quietly also had a pretty good year last year. Trevor Lawrence is looking like what they drafted him to be.
Yeah. And I wouldn't sleep on Miami. I mean, I just think it's too soon to tell. I think there's some teams out there that really appeared like they had some potential in 2022, a lot like Pittsburgh, made upgrades during the offseason, and then it's just going to be a matter of do they really all come together as something cohesive when 2023 gets going.
If they could just stay healthy, if Miami can stay healthy,
right?
They got something special there.
Right. Well, because to your point, I mean, all of these teams that we just named are one major injury away from being completely out of contention. Do you know what I mean? All of them have players they really rely on. And if, Kirk Cousins, if Josh Allen, you know what I mean? If any of these players, some of their big receivers, defenders go down, I mean, they could be in trouble. That could be enough to make them stumble.
We saw so many teams just not play their starters at all in the preseason.
Right.
At
Big
all.
mistake.
Then you just throw them out there in week 1, and then there's like, I can't believe how many injuries there are. Yeah, because this is the first time you got them in actual playing conditions.
Right.
Dummy.
Right, because that new player agreement that they agreed upon, was it 2 years ago now? There's a limited amount of practice. They can even practice in helmets during the season and pads, right? So that's one thing. It's so funny how, not to beat the homer drum, but we've had Noel, Tomlin, Koehler, right? And all three of them have been hard knocks guys, and Tomlin, he gets them in pads. Koehler had them in pads. I mean, this is the football we play. To each one of those men's credit, they've adopted that. I think they see value in that. I think Hard Knocks has wanted to do the Steelers for a couple of years now, guys, and I don't think Tomlin's been comfortable.
Tomlin has flat said no.
Yeah,
he's flat said no.
Yeah. And because honestly, let's be honest, it would be a really great series. I know I'd be watching it. So the Jets this year was okay. It was all right. But yeah.
The thing is you can't replicate what it is to play an opponent. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just can't replicate that. I don't care how hard your defense goes against your offense. It isn't the same thing. These people. It's just not. And so to me, there's no practice you can do at your own facility that replicates what you get out of a preseason game, even if they only start one game.
Well, yeah. And, it's so different. Joe and I talked about this last year. We remember as kids. Remember the Redskins with the Commanders now, they would practice when they were the Redskins, they would practice in Carlisle, PA. So early in the preseason, it would always be the Steelers went to Carlisle, the Redskins would come to Latrobe, and they'd have a full-out scrimmage and go where it has helmet, pads, everything. Now it's
I've heard a lot of teams like to do those scrimmages, and the reason why is because they get to hide. The problem with having preseason games is they're all televised, and if you're trying to hide a player on your roster, maybe cut him and then put him back on your practice squad, if he blows up in some preseason game or something like that, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's why they like those scrimmages, because they could you could still kind of have a game, but it's not out there for everyone to see.
Right. Or those teams where the two teams come together and practice during camps, you know what I mean? Not like a whole scrimmage. But, I heard some of the players talking about that recently, and they said that it's just like a disaster, like a recipe for disaster, because one team will need to be like the alpha dog, and like they just won't quit till like the other team submits.
That's
so
the thing. There's
like so many injuries, potential for injuries, fights, chippiness, all of these things that just aren't necessary during an actual preseason game. The refs are there and they regulate this stuff and make sure things stay as calm as possible.
You gotta be sick and tired of any team has to be playing, of Dan Moore going up against Cam Hayward every single day. It's like, can I please have someone else? Poor Chooks going against TJ Watt every day. Like, please, can he take a break or something like that? At least when you go against another team, it's like, oh, good, I get to beat up someone else. Yay.
Right. Well, then you get a break and you get hurt big. You got to be like, what the hell?
Right. Yeah. What kind of break was that?
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny. I always say how fantasy football mirrors life. And you sit there in the same way. We always try to have our draft the last possible weekend before tomorrow night's game, because you don't know. I mean, it's just, that's always that big fear of who's going to go down this year, and so every fan base goes through that.
Yeah.
We just hope it's not us.
It's just that there's a big injury roulette wheel, and you just hope that your team is okay. So we'll
damn well all of Cincinnati was holding its breath for at least 24 hours when they carted Joe Burrow off on a cart on the first day of practice. I mean, are you kidding me? Could you imagine if that was Kenny? It's like, oh God.
Even until like this week, they were still like, is Joe Burrow okay? Is he
right? Yeah.
So that's scary stuff. So, all right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's hope for a good season.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, LeeAnn, Allison. Nice seeing you guys.
Good to see you too, Darren. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Joe. See you guys.
See ya.
Thanks, Joe. Bye.